Welcome back to the channel, Natsu here once again, and we need to talk about Tekken 8 because a lot of people are hating on the game, especially top players like me and Arnold Ash, and I'm gonna be showing in a few seconds what they have been saying, right? And besides discussing that, right, I will be also showing solutions to the issue at hand. So what they're saying is that the game is super aggressive, and if you're a player that likes to play offense, it's a perfect game for you. But if you're a player like them, right, which are players that like to play defense, being defensive, right, it's not a good game for them, right? And the reason for that is technically because of the new game mechanics, which is heat, right? Now, having said that, right, I will be going a little bit down in the video explaining what solutions can be done for heat because I do understand the frustration, but at the same time, I think, and again, this is their opinion, and they later down explain that, sorry for this, I'm gonna adapt. Now, even though they have, say I'm gonna adapt, right, I think people are not seeing objectively what the developers are trying to do for Tekken 8. Now, I will be doing a video in the future about talking about fighting game developers because there's some stuff that I do not agree, right? But in this scenario, I understand what is their logic, right? And what I mean by logic is that, for example, the game needs to change. Tekken 8 is, if you compare it to music, right? Let's say that you're somebody that likes rock and roll, right? If you remember back in the '60s, the hippies, you listen to the Beatles, right, or Jimi Hendrix, and then later down the line, the punks came out from England and New York, right? And it was way different. Like if you think about it, like if you compare Jimi Hendrix, which is a god in guitar, right, and you compare it to the Sex Pistol guitarist, right, or even the Clash, uh, they're not on the same level. So what I'm trying to say that technically rock and roll was super advanced, and then punk came out and dominated down. That everybody can do it and everybody can have fun, right? And that's the thing. For Alan Ash and Knee, right, it is not a fun game. Now, if we're gonna think about it objectively, right, as a developer or the thought process that Harada might be having, which I think he has expressed this in different, the podcasts or the meetings that I had done with other producers of fighting games, right? And he explains that he's a fan of Virtua Fighter. And if you see, right, technically Tekken 8 has a lot of stuff for other fighting games, especially the 3Ds. So, for example, the environment thingies, changing from stage to stage, that's from Dead or Alive. Now, throws, grabbing people if they try to do a sidestep, that's from Breath of Fire. And I think, even though some people hate it, I think it's awesome that can be done now. Because that's the thing. Let's talk about defense in Tekken is way different than other 3D fighting games. And I think that the way it is right now, it needs to change, right? Because in the long run, it will not help it out. And I'm seeing slowly but surely those changes are coming. So let me explain. So Tekken, is a legacy fighting game, so it has a lot of game mechanics that are from the old versions, right? And you can see that I'm doing attack, right? And the character is blocking. Now, keep in mind, this is on versus. This is not on training, this is on versus. I have my first controller and my second controller, right? And the second controller is not doing anything. I don't have back, because if it was holding back, it will move. Now, you can see that I'm sidestepping, right? And it will avoid light attacks. I mean, the one in this case, which is a linear attack. What I mean by linear is attack that hits only on the front, doesn't go to the sides, right? And you can see that if you miss time, you get hit, but sometimes you will still get hit even if you time it correctly, right? Because the way that the game tracks your opponents. Now, there's normals like this one that will track me, right? It will hit me, and that's okay, right? And that's the beauty about a 3D fighting game. A 3D fighting game has what it has: movement, right? And this is one of the things that Arlen, Ash, and me are kind of frustrated because just the sidestep is way better in Tekken 8 than other Tekken. I think it's one of the best right now, but the issue is still there. What I mean by this is that the tracking needs to change, and what I mean by that is that compared to other games like Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur, dead or alive, right? Evades work better. Now, you can see that over here right now, I do the low attack and it will not block low attacks, right? And this, the low, this is not guaranteed. The only way is that this is guaranteed that it hits is if I do the if I hit you the low as a counter, right? But the thing is that in this case you need to manually block, so the player needs to hold back in order for this to not happen, right? And again, I'm not saying that because people have the you know the automatic block, the game is bad. What I'm saying is that because Tekken, you need to hold back to block, like a 2D fighting game, right? It is not like Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur, Dead or Alive, right? That you use a guard button. And what happened is that when people are doing backdash, right? And that's what most people do, right? Or Korean backdash, which was the way it was back in the day, right? And Korean backdash has been nerfed a lot. Like from Tekken 2nd, you start seeing they've been nerfing it and been nerfing it. And to be honest, I think that's the reason why the changes I will be providing in the future, like my solutions, are the things that might be happening, or the things that they want to do it, but they're still afraid. So you can see that I'm running back, right? And I cannot attack the opponent. The only way for me to open them is like doing a low, right? And that's why you see a lot of people getting hit by lows and say, oh, that's scrubby, that shouldn't be the case. But the thing is that the lows usually are like around 60 frames or you know, or 20 frames. You can see it, right? And if you do the Korean backdash, right, you know, it looks beautiful. Oh, I love doing the movement. Yeah, I like it doing it. But do you think it's fair for new players? Having people being, you know, on a freaking gate wall, right? or saying, hey, you cannot pass this, like, you know, Gandalf, like, you cannot pass because you need to do Korean backdash, when it was in actuality a glitch, right? And then the developers say, hey, you know what, screw it, let it on because it looks cool, right? But that's the thing, it's gatekeeping. Korean backdash has been gatekeeping Tekken for a long time. And the thing is that now we have a new issue, right? And the issue is that those players that did Korean backdash, which is hard to do, right? They use it because they like movement, they like defensive options, they like a defense, right? And I'm not saying that defense should be removed altogether. What I'm saying is that defense needs to change. So for example, we have the big issue right now, hit, right? And the problem with hit, right? And this is, and everything will connect, right? So for example, I do this, right? And now I hit you and I'm in a stance. And because I'm in a stance, I can follow you up and be like steal my turn. And to be honest, I think that is a little bit strong. And the way to solve this is in actuality like something that Virtua Fighter has been doing for decades, which is evade. And the evade, like I explained, the sidestep in Tekken is not the best, right? And I think this is the correct way to go. Like Tekken needs to, and this is the thing, I don't think they might be able to do it, maybe in Tekken 9, because I don't know, you know, coding wise if it would be feasible for them, because I do see there's some tracking issues. For example, Eddie Gordo has been showing some people in Twitter like, hey, this string, even though it's linear, right, it's going only to the, but it should be only one plane, you should be able to avoid it, it shouldn't hit left or right, it's hitting still left or right, because the tracking of it is so good, right? It's an issue with the tracking system. So what I mean by this is that, sure, have the hit engagers, right? Because to be honest, like doing a 50-50, which I love playing 50-50s in any, you know, in Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur, because that's the thing. 3D games should have 50-50s, right? But the problem here is that they're so strong, right? You cannot like react to them correctly because everything is flashing, right? So for example, let me show you here in Virtua Fighter how this will be, right? So you will see over here, I'm gonna get hit by the kicks, and you can see like on the right corner, right, or right top corner, you can see that if the arrow is going up, that means that I need to do the evade towards that area, right? But you can also manually see this, right? And this is the training mode, right? But if you see it manually, you can see that the kick, where it's coming from, right? Right now I'm getting hit because I'm not observing my opponent, right? I need to do that visually, and this will provide more in-depth, right, and more matchup knowledge, right? Because if, for example, it's when you have fighting against Kazuya, right? You can see now I'm doing the bait because I'm doing the bait the correct way to the direction that it should be, right? In the case of Tekken, something that looks like it's gonna hit you from one part, it doesn't hit you, and that's the issue. Now you can see over here, if I try to do a bait for something that is full circular, right, compared to the other ones which was only to the left or the right, or up or down, in the plane, you can see I'm getting hit, right? So the only way to avoid this in this scenario is either I will block or I will crouch, right, and then I will punish correctly, right? See, I will crouch. Now, I believe they should implement evade, right? And implementing this will solve the issue of hit the way it is right now, because that's another thing. If we think about chip, right, the reason why you're getting a lot of chip, which something that at the beginning I wasn't convinced, but now that I'm playing the game, right, I understand why they have chip. To be honest, I think it's kind of weird in a 3D fighting game having chip damage, like it was like a 2D, right? But I understand they're doing this because they want to make so that if you're an aggressive player, at least you have a better comeback. Because again, things like going and doing a backdash, backdash, you're blocking all the time, and the only way they can hit you, right, if they do a low, or if they're close enough, they might try to grab you, right? And that's why throws are more stronger now, right? In conclusion, right, adding evade like Virtua Fighter to Tekken 8, what's gonna do is the following. It will do people that are defensive, right, are able to play technically like they were playing before, which is that they have matchup knowledge. They know their stuff, right? They will be playing against the player, not against the mechanics, because that's what's happening right now. Most of the players are not fighting against the player, but the game mechanics itself. And that, I understand that it's not a lot of fun. Like, for example, I stopped playing Street Fighter 6 because I didn't find it fun. Like, I do love Street Fighter, right? But Street Fighter 6, the drive system and everything that it correlates, right? The way the game mechanics in that game work, I don't like them. I do not have fun, even if I'm winning, right? And I win a lot, but I don't care for it. Like, like, to be honest, if you make the evade, this will make it so like, hey, you know what, Arlen Ash will be okay, you know what, you're doing the same thing over and over, or you have me in the hit engager. So if you do not try to do like a correct mix-up, like for example, let's say that they want to go for a throw and you evade, right, you will get grabbed. But let's say they want to go with a low, right, they will get hit because I will be doing evade and then punishing accordingly, right? And let's say that maybe they want to do like a snake edge, right, after the hit engager. Keep in mind that usually the snake edge, right, which is like a big roundhouse, on the floor, right? Sweep. Roundhouse is the one up. Anyway, with the sweep, right? If they hit you with the sweep, they will get a combo. But think about this: the sweep takes a while, like 20 frames or 21, depending on the character, right? Something like that. And that means that you can do a hop kick and then punish accordingly because you will use your low crush. So in that regard, even though the hit itself engager still has aggressive power, at least defensively people will have more options. And it can be, it was gonna be super hype when you see Knee or Ash, right, saying, oh, this guy's gonna do this, and I do an evade, and blah, uppercut. Let's go with a combo, everything changes, right? So, yeah, at the end of everything, I think this is the way they should go about it. Now, will they do it? I don't know, maybe in Tekken 9, right? But let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Do you think is this the correct solution, or just make it so that hit system doesn't exist, which is not gonna happen because they have that game mechanic. I doubt that's gonna happen altogether. So yeah. Anyway, as always, like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.